Hello and welcome to another Jim's Monday Malt Samples. No agenda, no guests, just myself having a wee chat and a good opportunity to get a rake through my wee box again. So I'll see you in a moment. Yes, it's good to see you again. A few of you's in here. I'll go through the roll call before we go any further, shall I? Whiskey Works Graham in early doors. Hold on now, I can hear myself now. Tony North Coast Drams is in, just popping in. He's doing a lift from the airport, so quite a distance actually for Tony, as I know we're at over here. Whiskey with Molly, Ben, good to see you, my friend. Greg's Whiskey Guy, bonjour. Lee J. Brown, good to see you as always, buddy. Who else did I see? McCallum Fine and Rare, the Doc in. Andre, who's in Croatia. Not always, I don't think, but just in Croatia at this point. Whiskey Lover Society Hurt. Gav's Drams, Gav, good to see you. Graham Cartwright, David Owen, Peter Morris, Stephen Aldrich. There's a few names here I don't recognise. Excuse me, Drew from AZ. So hello and a happy Memorial Day to anyone there in the States. Yeah, as I said, no agenda, no guests. Just myself and me wee box. But I'm sure we'll find something to talk about. We always do. So before I start, let's have a good rummage around in here for a sample. If you missed last month's live stream, I've changed the layout a little bit in that I've actually all my samples now are blind. So you'll see whenever I pull the first one out here that I've blanked them all now, so I don't know what they are. So we're actually playing a bit of a guessing game. So this is going to be my first one. Ooh, look at the color of that. That's like water. Could be water. I'm going to pull 3 samples now, and then I can put my box away. And as you can see, blanked out again. And then we'll move on. A couple of Richard and you in from Canada. How are you, Richard? I will see you soon, my friend. And Connor Smith in from down the road. Doc said already saying new make. There's a possibility. That is incredibly pale, isn't it? That's if you give me a second, I'll get a piece of paper here and hold it up to that. And this is my third one. Don't know what that is. So let's get actually hold the bus. It doesn't do any harm, I suppose. I'm still here. It doesn't do any harm to have a bit of paper to hold up behind these, I suppose, sometimes. Look how pale that is. I don't want to study it too long because I might actually give away what it is. That's my second one, and that is also quite pale. See, this is the thing. I think I said this before. And Whiskey Straight Al's in. Al, good to see you, buddy. I hope you're well. I said this before about these samples. This is one of the reasons why I like. Excuse me. Actually, I'm going to get a wee excuse in. I'm going to get my excuses in now. I have the end of last week. Paul Gibbs is in. Paul, how are you, buddy? The end of last week, or most of last week, I had a bit of a stinker of a head cold. And as much as I'm pretty much over it, it's still hanging around a wee bit. Fraser Thistle, you're definitely a new name to me. Hello, welcome. Neil Laverty, good to see you. Good crowd in, folks. Good to see you. It really is. So, the other thing is what I did the last time, and what I would prefer to do tonight is pour all 3 at once and give them a chance to settle them while I'm gibbering on. But I'm down to 1 wee solitary glass because, and here we go, my patrons will know about this, but I'm going to get it in. I'll say it now and then I'll forget about it and move on. That we've been putting a new kitchen into Shay's Ingram, and it has been, well, it's maybe a bit strong to say it's been a torture, but it's been a bloody torture. So it has. I think I would rather put needles in my eyes than change the kitchen again, because it's just, I've been complaining about this, and as I said, my patrons will know I'll have had this up to here already, but it's been one of those things that I didn't realize how disrupting it is to your whole family life. I spend most of my time in the kitchen, as in just I sit in the kitchen rather than going to a family room or whatever, the living room. I would tend to sit in the kitchen just, and I do all my tasting notes sitting in the kitchen, things like that. So it's just been a major disruption to me. But actually, Doc, Doc said that he thought this, that could be new make. It is very, very young smelling. New make might be a little much to say that it's actually new make, but it certainly smells young. It is good to see Whiskey Works Graham saying that the Highland Battalion said there's been a bit of a, that's something else that happened since last we spoke, that the tickets for the Glasgow Whisky Festival in November come out, and that's something else. Sorry, this is the remains of this head cold. That's something else that I was discussing quite a bit with, was the Glasgow Whisky Festival, and this year there's going to be a showing from the Highland Battalion over here, and we've managed to rope good lord, we've managed to rope Lee J. Brown in as a member of the battalion for that weekend. That does smell young, but it also smells a bit Kilkerran-y. There's a, or even Cologne. No. Is there an Irish feel to it? I didn't actually mean to say Cologne there. I meant to say Kilhoman. Bill Monteith's in. Bill, good evening, my friend. And I think I missed Kevin Grant there earlier. Seen him about. Greg's Whiskey Guide, new distillery? Possibly. A lot of the new distilleries I didn't jump at yet. Funny, this is something I've been thinking about this week. I don't tend to dive into these new distilleries. It's just not my way. Actually, I would rather wait and see what other people think. Now, Ardnamurchan was a prime example. Either wait to see what other people think, or if perchance somebody sends me a sample and then I can see what I think. And Ardnamurchan, the reason I'm saying Ardnamurchan was a prime example for me, because it was Alan McLaughlin, I think, sent me a sample of the inaugural release of Ardnamurchan, and I just fell in love with it straight away. Now, what I like, well, I think we've got an awful lot of us have said how much we're enjoying Ardnamurchan. One of the things I like about it is that it's, if you miss it, there'll be another one along. Ardnamurchan's like trains at the minute. If you miss it, there'll be another one along in a moment. And I think that's a great thing, because what you're doing is you're getting something slightly different the next time, because every release is slightly different. But you're also able to get your hands on a ball. If you missed that last release, there'll be another one along soon. Wait for it and you'll get it there. Torah Vague coming up here. Greg's naming lag. I don't, as I say, I don't tend to just jump into them. I would rather wait and even get into their, I don't know, second or third release. I'm just in no panic. There's enough, the way I look at it is there's enough distilleries out there already producing great quality stuff, that I don't really need to, I'm still catching up on a lot of them, rather than trying to keep continuously playing catch up with the new distilleries. And as most of us know, that's a competition at the moment, because for one, it's getting them when they do get released, and two, as I said, there's just so many of them. See, Doc's saying something there. If he started a new distillery in Ireland, he'd use chestnut casks, because they provide a lot of colour in a few months. Even at that, Doc, I love the fact that in Ireland here, we've got the ability to use wood of any breed. It is now. It's proof positive that oak is the right thing for it, because they still tend to lean on oak. But it's then whenever and Middleton are trying and testing it with the method of madness a lot. Just experimenting with wood finishes, and I just, some probably work, some don't. Yet again, it's a matter of taste. But I think it's brilliant that the options there. John McAllister, good evening from the Mull of. I think that's the Mull of Kintyre tonight. Lucky man, you're a lucky man. This smells young. It smells a bit green. It smells. It's slightly peaty. It is, and I would suggest that it may actually be a newer distillery. Could be completely wrong. Maybe Hellswed, Helen, and perhaps Andy. Good to see you. And the other thing, I hope you guys are feeling better now. I know you had that dreaded thing that's going away from us now. And Whiskey Works Graham is currently loaded with the thing that we don't mention. So I hope you are all starting to feel better soon. Yeah, this is, young, but I would suggest young, peated, very natural. I would say that's very natural. That's a natural color, obviously. There's no two ways about that. Some bits of me would suggest that it may actually be something a bit Irish that I'm not sure. I could be completely wrong there, but Menno's in. Good evening, Menno. I hope you're well, my friend. But if it is, and I actually said something a moment ago, Cologne, if it is something young and then it's maybe something that has come out of Cologne. But I would think more along the lines of it being Scotch, young Scotch, ABV, certainly in the 50s at least, I would have said. Mark Slinger's in. Good to see you, Mark. Peter, great colour. Island or Highland? I don't think it's Isla. Derek McDonald. Sorry, I have a brother-in-law called Derek McDonald. This was one. Sounds like Torvig. Could be Torvig. Daniel Vermaas is in. Hello, Daniel. It could well be Torvig. Right, I haven't even sipped this yet. Have I had Torvig? I can't remember. I may have had it. I'm not quite sure. Oh yes, this is definitely peated. Green, earthy, but not smoky. Greg, I said, sorry, Greg's asking, was it Cologne or Cologne? I was talking about Cologne Distillery. There's a Cologne Distillery here in the north of Ireland. A very small batch. I have a couple of the Brendan down there at Cologne Distilleries putting out Poitins, etc. at the moment, and doing very well at it. But there's also that Cologne feel about it too. He's asking how it's spelled. It's Killowen. Hold that thought. This is one of their Poitins that they put out. This is Cologne Distillery. They put out, I can't remember how many offerings they put out of these little Poitins. This is bottled at 55%. And they're only at 25 ml bottle. But interesting stuff. Interesting stuff it is. Not necessarily to my taste, but interesting nonetheless. Graham says there is a chance that it could be Poitin or new. It could be. Definitely tastes young. It's young, sweet. a lot of that almost powdered sugar or yeah, I'm not convinced about the finish on it. It definitely does. It's weirdly young or something weird. Yeah, I would still tend to go down the line, down the path of a new distillery here. Des is in. Hello, Des. Good to see you. Finish is long, muddy. You know, this is down that path almost of like a Poitin. Something very, very young. I would say. Could be wrong. Natural. Yes. 100% natural. I would suggest ABV in the 50s or higher. If it's not from Cologne, which is, I don't think it is. I think it's one of the new Scotches. I do. Right. I've rambled there, and I'm going to have to tell you what I'll do. Actually, I'll reveal this now because, as I said, I'm working off one glass tonight. So I'll reveal this now. Finish this. It drags out. I'm not. I'm not convinced I like it. That's a safe thing to say. It's not bad. It wouldn't be to my taste. It's not the sort of thing I would buy. Put it like that. I wouldn't buy it based on this sample. It's too unrefined to a man like myself with my fine tastes, he says with his finger cocked out. Confectionery. That was the thing I was looking for earlier. Confectionery. And weirdly, only maybe it's the power of suggestion, but we were talking about cologne. And there is just these instead of eau de cologne, there is a very perfumey note off it. So, Christopher Malloy's in. Good evening, Christopher. It's from Tony. Tony Drams and Draws. It is a AD Rattray. Can you read that? The Cask Collection, Stoisha, 2013, 6 years. So it is young, bourbon hogshead. And 50, I suppose, right? In the 50s or higher as well. And I never had it, never would have, honestly, probably never would have thought of buying something like that. But thank you, Tony. Wouldn't be to my taste, that one. Tony gives me some great samples. He actually provided me with myself and a couple of the other people that are in here tonight with a lot of very good samples this week, all of which I blinded. I basically looked at them and went, oh, yes. And then put labels, blanked them all out, and then put them in along with the rest of the samples so as they're not, I didn't want to mix them through too soon because I'd maybe remembered what they were, especially knowing that they came from Tony. So it's peated Buna. Yeah, it is the peated Buna. And no, not weird. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't act really like a Buna. It's not, it doesn't have that real oily texture. No, definitely doesn't. Not for me, that one. Not for me, but you know, let's just get that glass drained. That wasn't the full sample, by the way. There's plenty left to discuss at a later date. And I'll get my next sample poured. Giving the glass a bit of a wash out first, of course. Now, Oh, cap's a bit loose in that one. It's all right. Yes, I think I was actually going to say that to you earlier on. That's what it was I was going to say. And then it did my usual, took a bit of a body swerve and then headed off in another direction. Somebody came in and said something, just distracted me. What was I going to tell you? Yes, it's the quality that I get in samples. I think this is the thing. Never, ever, and it happened last month that somebody suggested, is it a something? And it was something very simple, something that would probably have all have had, something relatively cheap, and they suggested would have been it. And I knew for a fact it wouldn't have been, because nobody, and this is what I love about you guys, I love about the whiskey community. Nobody sends you samples of Bushmills 10-year-old. Nobody sends you samples of, I'm just looking over my shoulder because my head's gone blank, of Glenallachie 12. They don't send you samples of the stuff you can buy. They send you samples of stuff that they have in their collection that they think you would like. And that's how you and I learn what we do like then, through them samples a lot of the time. But I've found that most of those are maybe single cask offerings, or and it's something that you just think to me, and I do it myself, and I think to myself, this is so good, somebody else has to share it, somebody else has to try this. But sometimes people are giving me samples and they're going, oh, you should try that, and I'm just thinking to myself, that bottle must have cost a fortune. I don't know, it's just the generosity of the whiskey community, but it just amazes me. That's the thing. It still amazes me to this day. Now this, if I'd have had these in the other order, remember I went in tonight. It's been a busy old day. I'm a bit flushed because I was literally rushing to the last moment. So I come in here tonight, and this was that 80 Rattery was my first sip. I hadn't worn my palate or anything. It was just straight in. So this then, whatever it may be, sort of is peeling very much. It's very light. I would say nearly straight off the mark that this is something Speyside. Lee J's on there. Knock 18. Lovely dram, my friend. Lovely dram. Fraser Thistle, Lechic 10-year-old, also can't fault it. Have to ask, has anybody heard from Frank? I know he's on Isla in his tent. So I was just checking to see if anybody had heard from him, make sure he's okay. My trip to Isla in August gets ever closer, and I cannot wait. This is very light, slightly sweet, yet again, ever so lightly floral. I think it'll be in the palate of this before. Oh, Ben saying he met up with Frank on Wednesday in Glasgow again. One of these days, Frank and I will cross paths. Hmm. All the same, an interesting little palate. Sweet. Yeah, I did say earlier, Speyside sweet, slightly, it's a weird vegetative funk off it. The whiskey friends and Alan, good to see you, buddy. I said earlier, I said about the last one having a confectionery note of it. Now this, and if anybody outside of the UK knows what I'm talking about here, I'd be highly surprised, because it just dawned on me what this tastes like. It tastes like flumps. Now, There's probably those Stephen Davison's in as well, by the way. And I missed you earlier, Stephen. There's probably those outside the UK are wondering what the hell a flump is. That's a good question. Richard knows what flumps are. When we find out what this is, Richard, and if you liked flumps, let's taste like flumps. Ben knows what flumps are. Hells, but see, people from within the UK, being that Richard's originally from here, it sounds kind of onomatopoeic. It does. It does sound it sounds like it does what it sounds like. No, I can't even pronounce that word tonight. Onomatopoeic. And it does. A flump is, I suppose, to a certain extent. Drew says it's not lychee, is it? No, it's not. A flump is it's a candy. It's a sweet, depending where you're from. But it's a squishy, soft thing. I would dare say every country has their version of it. Here they were flumps, and they just had this real soft, chewy. They weren't a chew, so to speak. They had a weird sort of like marshmallows, almost as Peter Morris is saying. This tastes like flumps. It really does. Clean, fresh. I would definitely say it's either Speyside or Highland, or maybe Lowland. I know people talk about Lowland whiskies, and I don't have enough experience with Lowland whiskies to know if it has a feel in the way that you would say that a Speyside. I always say that as a standard, if you take your Albert Hours and those that use sherry maturation pretty much all the time, take them out of that. Whiskey Friend Flump. Actually, the Flumps was a TV show as well, but then there was. I'm not sure whether they both ran at the same time. Speyside has a feel, Highland has a feel, Isle has a feel. Whereas Lowland to me doesn't necessarily have a feel that you could almost put your finger on. I can't find it. Put it like that. So this for me, either Highland or Speyside. I'm actually going to pour a little more of that in my glass. Add a little water. It was, besides its flump-like tendencies, it has a bit of a Glencairn sort of feel about it. It wouldn't just be as, I wouldn't say it was just as hefty as a Glencairn, but it's got that nice sweet, not just as thick oily edge as a Glencairn. What you should all do after this is go and Google flumps. You really should. Although be careful because you can get arrested for Googling flumps. Yeah, it has got that sort of, and then when you go back into the nose, it's not in the nose. It's not on the nose that it has got Glencairn feel. It was more on the palate. And it's definitely lighter than a Glencairn. And Alan's saying, I don't think it's Craigellachie, Alan, because it's not, yet again, it's not thick enough. Longmorn, perhaps. I don't know if I've ever had a Longmorn from memory. You see, I knew Doc would sort this out for us. It's a British sweet made from marshmallow. the sweetest combination of pink, yellow, white, and blue marshmallow, which is the appearance of a twisted helix. Jeff, you just come in at the right time. We're talking about flumps. This is, would I buy it? I would return. This is a whiskey I would return to, because when you want something, and I found myself doing this. I find myself doing this in the summer, especially if I've had just a bit outside working or something, and I'll come in and I maybe just want a beer, and then after I've had it'll be a cold lager, a small Heineken or something like that. Then after a while, I'll maybe fancy a wee dram, but it'll be something like this that I'll be wanting. Something relatively inoffensive. This is, I would say, you could easily mistake this for a blend. There's a good chance this is a blend. It's because there's a kind of, although if it is a blend, then it would maybe be something maybe something from, I wouldn't even say it's Douglas Lang, it would maybe have been something from Compass Box, because it's, if it was a blend, it's a good, if it's a blend, it's a good one. I mean, everybody's talking about Chelsea Whoppers. Don't know what that is. It's probably before my time. It's, yeah, sweet. Something tells me it's very young. Greg said, I don't know whether it is. I don't know whether it is, Greg. The sweetness would suggest that it's young, but I don't actually feel like it is. And yes, it is a sort of whiskey that it feels something light. It definitely does. It's something inoffensive, something ABV around, probably it is around 46%. Is it natural? I don't know. I would say it's probably natural color. There's not a lot of, if there's color in that, there hasn't been a lot added to it. Then again, I could be wrong. Hell's Wed saying single grain. I don't think so. I honestly don't think so. Stephen Davison, Glen Elgin, possibly. Glen Elgin would be a good shout, actually. So we'll tell you what we'll do. I'll reveal this one, and I might actually finish this sample because it's going quite well. If I can. Now, I did say before that my 11-year-old daughter had taped these on, and she's made a cracking job of it because I can't get them released. I would go back to this. This is a whiskey that I would probably go back to. Now, the suggestions are coming in here. Milton Duff, Cotswolds. I've only had a couple of Cotswolds, so I wouldn't have enough to base that on, Doc. Possibly. Milton Duff. Have I had Milton Duff? I can't even remember if I've had Milton Duff. Something tells me I have, but I can't remember. Oh, come on, damn you. I don't want to have to get teeth into this. I'm going to have to get a knife at some point here for the... Oh, here we go. We're on to something now. I've maybe just peeled the label off it completely. Here we go. Right, I'll get some sort of shape on it. I always like to reveal to you guys first. Let's see if I can see what it is. Oh, the English. Hold on. Ah, Lee J, this was from yourself. It's the English, it's the Somerton Club exclusive. Virgin Virgin refill bourbon casks. 46%, one of 1,360 balls. So there you go. I would go back to that. And weirdly, now that I've actually tried that it's all right going back on myself and going, oh, no, I do know that. But when I recently did the triple distilled English along with a malt box Andy and Roy Aquaviti, I put it in as part of the blind tasting because it was triple distilled along with the Irish whiskies, and yes, there's actually, I would definitely suggest that they have a flavor profile, and it is that same sort of, I got that at the time. I remember now that I actually did get that at the time. It takes a while for it to come through. I think I actually said about it at the time that there was a confectionery note of it. I don't think I used the word flumps, but I'll remember that from now on. I do like that. I have a plan later in this year to do a series on. This, I probably shouldn't be issuing this out. This should be the sort of stuff I should be saving for my parents. On English whiskies, because I haven't really touched on English whiskies yet, and there's no reason other than there's just so much whiskey. That is the only reason that I haven't got to round to doing any English whiskies yet. And at that point, I'll probably give you my full views on that triple distilled English that I have. Cheech Ardolino. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Cheech. That's a new name to me. Good to see you, my friend. So yeah, that was that's interesting. It goes a little dry in the end. Virgin refill bourbon casks, yeah. And you don't, if there's that virgin oak. Mm, mm, perhaps in the nose a bit, you get a hint of the virgin oak, but apart from that, they've actually, well, I'm not a fan of virgin oak, I've said it before, but they've it well toned out. There's a few shouts about the t-shirt, and I'm just a bit of a Queens of the Stone Age fan. And I noticed Greg saying earlier on about Caius. Caius, who came before Queens of the Stone Age, was a fan of theirs as well. Whiskey Encore. It's a new one to me. I didn't. You're a new one to me, buddy. I'll take a look. Doc, that's a good question. Is a refill still a virgin? It was setting off alarms in my head, but Stephen Davison saying fantastic band to see live. Yes, I've seen them about 3 times, different times. I've seen them, and still, I think the best time I've seen them at Slane whenever they were back in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the Foo Fighters were on the same bill, and it was just, oh, what a day! What a day! Yeah, I do like this. Thank you for that sample, Lee J. And thank you, Tony. If I didn't say it earlier, Tony, thank you for the sample. Oh, pardon me, the sample of the stush it. See, what I like about whiskies like that English, and it's this maybe, I think the thing is, it starts to sound a bit silly whenever you say it. Sometimes I think whenever we're talking about whiskey, sometimes we forget to tell ourselves that why we like it is because it's easy to drink. You know, and that English was easy to drink. Sorry, I passed out there for a moment to read the text. Why did I pick this one out, and why did I not take the tape? This is a challenge tonight because there's tape around the top of this one as well. That's all right. The cleaner will get that tomorrow. There we go. Now, what have we got this time? Once again, quite a light color. It's hard to tell. The light in here is not the best. I imagine I've had this one in my samples for a long time. Now, there's not an awful lot of that, so that's as much as come out of it. So it's all going to go in one go here. Ooh, that's a tiny little note. That's just, now that I would say is virgin oak. Straight away, that to me has that pine sap thing about it that I find in a lot of virgin oak cask maturation. That is very woody, very young smelling, or very active. I would say a very active virgin oak cask. And Luna's saying a rye, possibly. Possibly. Yeah, it's quite strong, quite sharp. And it's something that I always, yet again, that I tend to go down the path of with virgin oak is wood polish. Even you get that, to me, I get that pledgy note. I'm name dropping here once again. Probably outside the UK, I don't know whether pledge is a thing, but it's just a spray wood polish, an aerosol wood polish. It's not bad. It's not as bad as some as have had. I'm saying that I think this is virgin oak. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. And Luna's firing up a lot. You know, Luna said about rye. Could be, I agree, wood polish or acetone. Again, it's that acetone thing is almost very, very similar. So, but then whenever I think acetone, I think of some of the poor bourbons, you know, some of those bourbons that just haven't hit it right. This is sharp. This is kind of hard on the nose. It's enough spirit. There's enough spirit there to just make you want to lift back a bit. But then when you do that, when you come back in, biscuit, even a cracker that you would maybe have with cheese, you actually get that just as you go in there. And it's actually very pleasant once it starts to work together with that slight sharp sweetness. That's weird. That I'm actually weirdly coming round to that, but at the same time, it's one that I don't know. See, the dog's saying acetone's very nice. See, I think of acetone as nail varnish remover. Is that the same thing? I know whenever I'm doing my nails, but you know, that's what I always think of acetone as. It's what I would have called nail varnish remover, basically. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not the same thing. And it is nasty. It's that, especially when you smell it in the background. That's weird. I'm coming round to it. I don't know. Let's get into the palate and see what I think. Once again, palate would suggest virgin oak to me. And I can't. I've done this before, where I've thought virgin oak, and then either that or I've went one way or another. I've thought young and it's been virgin oak, or I've thought virgin oak and it's just been young, but not virgin. So there's been I can sometimes get young and virgin oak mixed up. And if I would say anything, maybe this is actually young and virgin oak. But weirdly, I'm really enjoying it now that it's settled and it's started to. See, Greg's saying, "Where's the distillery character?" It's weird. I find it. I would say it's very hard to. Ben's asking brutality. I would definitely say no. I would almost 100% say no, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past. Obviously, this is. I would actually go. Part of me would say this is over the Atlantic. The part of me is saying that this is actually. Luna said it earlier. Is it rye? Possibly. It could even be a bourbon. I know that sounds, or an American. This is the one. It's not a bourbon, an American whiskey. It could be that. It's not bad. It's not bad. Hell's Red saying Stonic. I don't think it is the Stonic. I had the Stonic before, and I don't think it is. It doesn't act like a rye that I've had. That's the reason why I'm sort of thinking that it's actually not rye. It's just something that's New York. New York to me. It's very difficult then for me to. Greg was asking about distillery character or whatever. I would find it very hard to nail down to. Yeah, that's very new wood. That would be one that I would find very hard to nail down to anything that seems Scottish. Um, European, possibly. So let's then start and look at ABV, age, color. Cool running. From Newton Abbey. Good to see you, my friend. Not too far away from here. Uh, Young, yes, I would think. New York. I'm thinking. I still keep thinking New York. Uh, ABV 46 to 50. It's there's enough going on there. Natural. Don't know. Don't know. Don't think. I don't know because it's not. It doesn't feel like a Scotch. It doesn't feel Irish. Is it Irish? It either feels. It feels a little alien to me now. Now I'm starting to get a hint of licorice at the back, which would suggest rye. I think I am. Hmm. Eric Waite is in. Eric, how are you, my friend? Hope you're doing well, buddy. McMira, possibly. Ben, I've had quite a few of the McMyers. I'm not sold on them. I think I've told you that before. The more I have of that, the more I'm divided on it, because there's something about it that makes me really like it. I'm damn sure I'm glad that I'm not. This isn't a review because there's something about it that I really like about it. There's something about it that just doesn't sit well with me. I haven't got an awful lot of it left to play with here to know whether I like it or not. So that's what I'm going to say. 46 to 50%. Or maybe slightly higher. Virgin, I just get virgin oak about it. Young. Yeah, I think it's young. I do not think this is something with age about it. Fraser Thistle, has there been any Scotch malt done in a rye cask finish? Somebody else can answer that. I know there's been Irish whiskies. I don't know how much of a rye cask would affect. I think you'd be doing really well to find. Oh, tell me she hasn't taped this one twice. I think you'd be doing really well to find a massive flavour change from a rye cask finish. It's easier, I suppose, just to. I mean, I know certainly with the Irish. Of course, Jeff Whisky said the Regal, the Chivas Regal 13 dry cask. I just don't know. Yeah, of course, there's the Glenalloch 8 as well. Derek, that's right. I just find it weird because to me, rye wouldn't have enough. A rye wouldn't have enough. And I've been proved wrong here because we're talking about two. There's two whiskies that are, I'm going to reveal this in a moment, by the way. I wouldn't have thought rye in its own would have enough of a. I'm stuck for words here. A play and a cask to make it. Why not just then? Because I know the Irish are doing it quite a bit. Just use rye and just actually use rye and make the rye spirit, but blend it down with malt, which a few of them are doing now. I honestly just did not think that a rye a cask. There you are. I mean, Eric Waite's saying that I didn't realize that Ardbeg is a rye cask. Right, I'm going to look. It's 56.1%. I can see that now. I've just seen that from the edge. Who's it from? This is from Maltbox Andy. This is actually This is the Glen Scotia 10-year-old limited edition Bordeaux finish from 2021. And the reason why I'm looking a bit bemused, I was actually starting to think to myself, do I not have that? But I don't. I know I don't. So there you are. That's what it was. It's the Glen Scotia 10-year-old. And that limited edition Bordeaux finish. I'm going to have to Google that and see when it says it's the Bordeaux finish. That is the Campbelltown Festival bottling from 2021. It doesn't feel like a wine finish. It just feels like it. No, I wouldn't. I don't know. As I say, part of me likes it. Part of me's not sold. I like my Glen Scotia. I've said it before. I like my Glen Scotia. I wouldn't have rushed out and bought that one based on that, and even that finish I said earlier about having a bit of hint of licorice about it. It's not very pleasant. Jeff Whiskey liked it. They are. It wasn't for me. Ben said, hold up the glass, let's see the colour. It's clear. No, I finished it, mate. You'll just have to go back for the replay to watch it again. Because it wasn't, that's the thing. There was very little colour about it. So somebody suggested a moment ago there that it was tired glasses, or tired cask. And I would maybe say they were right, that it was a tired cask. Or that there was, because it is a Bordeaux finish, so maybe, I don't know, there was some virgin oak used in the build-up. Possibly, I don't know, probably doubt that. But no, I certainly wouldn't be buying that one. I'm sure Andy loved it. And Ben loved it. To the point where he bought 3 bottles of it. But no, it wouldn't be for me. I'm actually going to go back now and finish this sample from Tony earlier on, just to finish out the last 5 minutes of tonight's show, because you do know that I like to keep it to an hour. You see now, going back after having warmed up the palate and enjoyed other whiskies prior, and then going back into that peated Buna, it's just so much better on the nose. Still something I wasn't getting earlier on. It's slightly rubbery, but it's now I'm actually starting to get that smokiness, and it's a sweet smoke, dry wood. Yeah. Yeah, that's so much better. Haven't warmed up my palate. It's still a bit generic. It's not, it doesn't feel like a Buna to me, but it's so much better. Greg's whiskey guide saying Paris, that's the thing. This is why I love doing these blind now, rather than going in knowing what they are, because as a Glen Scotia fan, I would probably have sold myself on that sample before I'd even tasted it, because that's the way the mind works, the human mind works. I'm convinced of it, that I would probably have done the same with the Buna. I would have said, and I know that, and this is yet again something that I love about the community, and the fact that, and the longer that it runs on and people reviewing, etc., that once you the frauds don't hang around long. I found that those that just tell you what you want to hear. And I mean, I'm talking about anybody. I mean, I'm talking about everybody within the whiskey community. Just talking to people face to face, and I mean, it doesn't do any harm to have a fairly good bullshit filter, which I think I have. That you can tell whenever they're just telling you what you want to hear. So this is what blind sampling to me that's the best thing about it. Especially I prefer it in this sort of scenario where it's not a challenge, where you're not sort of, I know whenever and I always appreciate whenever Roy asks me, or anybody asks me to do a blind challenge, always appreciate it, but I always feel a certain amount of pressure to get things right, or feel like I should be getting things right. But in this case, when there's no pressure whatsoever, it's just me, you, and whiskey, and all we're doing is shooting the shit, really. This is when and I'm so glad that I've moved on to doing this blind that can get to enjoy these whiskies and make my decisions on them based on what I'm tasting. Right, I'm about to wrap up. There's an hour done. That's the other thing. I used to find it quite difficult to fill an hour and go, right, well, we need to talk about something. We need to find something to talk about. You guys make it very easy. You really do. And yet again, this setup with the samples this way makes it easier because I can focus on them more. Sorry, before we go, Doc just asked a very good question. Does anybody know if the Stushes are using the same new make? I would be very interested in knowing that, because it may be, once again, I haven't reviewed. I have the standard Moyne I'm going to be reviewing, and I'm going to be reviewing another Moyne soon. But I wasn't a fan of the standard Moyne. But the other one that I'm going to be reviewing, I'm a huge fan of. So it would be interesting to know if. So Greg's saying no, it's maybe less peated. To me, as I say, I'm not a fan of the standard Buna Moyne. I think it's a bit lackluster, and I'm just not actually a fan of Buna. A lot of their non-age statement stuff that is released, it's still core range for them. It's just sort of, it's put into that price bracket to make people want to buy it. As such, I'm not a fan. All those ones that you can't pronounce, not a fan. And there's a good chance that whenever I actually had this earlier on, that's what was setting off alarms in my head, that I'm not a fan of the Moyne. So I'm not a fan of this, really. Else it's going to go and wash your mouth out. This is the thing. I know a lot of people really, this is it. But, that's what I'm saying about, that's what I said about a moment ago. That's the honesty of it. I'll even tell you the one, and I'll be reviewing it very soon. It's the Moyne Bordeaux. So we're actually crossing two here. The Moyne Bordeaux from last year, from the Fish Ale, is outstanding. But just the standard, as I said, the standard Moyne just does not do it for me. Found it just lackluster. They're not here. They're in another room. Those other two non-age stated ones that they put out. Storador, and the one that I always make a mistake with its title. Not a fan at all. Give me the 12-year-old or with I've discovered with Bunnahabhain that my tastes are quite rich. It has to be into they're real good, because there's something about, and I don't want to give too much away regarding reviews and stuff, but there's just something about Deanston and Bunnahabhain and even Tobermory that I have a hit and miss nearly list of them that I really need to work with them sometimes. It's just distill that some of their whiskies just work for me 100%, and some of them just don't work for me at all. So I don't know what it is about me and distill. It just seems to be the way. So I'm just cruising down through the chat here before I go. And yeah, I know this is I definitely think it is a one of those divides. And yet again, we all have our thing. We all have our place to go. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'll tell you what, I'll pour myself, actually, because it's the only bottle I have in front of me. Because you always have to have something in your glass to sign off. And I've even got an Eagle Rare cork in it, I've just noticed. Because I think the caps on these, I'll show you in a moment. I'm just pouring a little drop. This was the Duff Poitin from Cologne, and it's I'm sure you probably do. I'm sure you all know. But, if you don't know what Poitin is, it's basically Poitin was white lightning. It's hooch. It's illegal. It was a legal spirit in Ireland, but there's loopholes now. There's legalities that you can do to basically make Poitin legal, and I think it's something like resting. It's not maturing. It's resting for 10 days, 10 weeks or something like that. And Luna's asking what's the difference between new make and Poitin. In my head, nothing. Absolutely nothing. That's I was always convinced that's basically what Poitin is. It's just new make spirit. But to sell it legally, it has to be rested now for 10 weeks. And that's the way they get round the laws, because you couldn't have. It was basically, this was the stuff that people were always talking about that was making them go blind, etc. Because it was made, there was farms all over the country making this stuff, and certain parts of the country there still are, and it's just the way it is. Now this stuff here, it's yet again, it's young. It's, if ever you wanted, Brendan down at Cologne's Brendan, I've said this before many a time. He'll give you a history of everything he's doing, like most of them. But if ever you wanted to reset your senses to know what new make's like, there was a whole series of new make released. This was just one of them. There's another one up there. There was a full series of them released, and every one of them tastes different. Now, we used to go in and do it differently again, where our maturation was done in the bottle. You're because you've sent me off on a tangent here. I was going to quit a minute ago. We would have taken your Poitin, because it's not terribly palatable stuff. It's basically what they were doing was more so along the lines of making vodka, and let's make this as strong as we can make it. That's what the Poitin producers were doing, and as Richard Agnew said, it's where the statement "blind drunk" came from, because it was stuff like that probably would have made you blind. So what you do is you take something like your Poitin, then, because it's either like vodka where it's a flavorless spirit, or it was just roughly made so it's bogging, and you put it in a bottle with brandy balls or something like that. So they're just putting it in an old juice bottle with brandy balls, and the brandy, basically the spirit's just eating the brandy balls and taking the sugar and etc. that, and it's flavoring over time the Poitin, and actually very pleasant drink whenever it was done right. This, as I said, if you want to know what new make spirit, or getting down that path is like, Cologne's a good place to look, because you're going to get something like that. I wouldn't spend a lot of money on it personally. It's because really what you are getting is new make spirit. It's quite chemically, there's all that sharpness of apple and all, but it's not like, it needs something. Once again, a bit pain. There's a hint of pain of it. There's something else in there, and I can't put my finger on it. It's a fruit, but it's just very, like, this is only 55%, so he's brought this down, but it's a strange thing. It's what I would actually like to do with it at some point, and what I may do with it at some point, is put some of this in a little 2 litre cask and age it myself and see what I can do with it. Maybe some would say that's sacrilege, but I mean, at the end of the day. Anyway, look, I was going to wrap up 10 minutes ago. You see what you made me do. Uh, so look, I'll leave it. I'll be back in June at some point. Hopefully, by that point, we will have a kitchen again, and then there'll be a bit of normality back in Shays Ingram. Yeah, Richard knew. Sorry, he did say it there. Slow gin is class. Years from I've had slow gin. Once got very very drunk at a party where it was one of those Irish parties where the music was just banging all night. It was just as in guitars were going, and all I drank all night was slow gin, and it was brilliant. I had no hangover at all from it. I just can Google and see what slow gin is. I'm not going to start explaining that one. So listen, thank you for joining me. I've done my usual, blathered on a bit longer than I should have done. Yeah, that is weird. Anyway, as I say, been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back in June for more of the same. Until then, look after yourselves. Here's to your good health. Cheers.